we're here to talk a little bit about driving efficiency in your business and how that impacts your customer lifetime value. So that's kind of the theme that we'll keep for the meeting. And then we're going to follow up. I'll have Rahul join us a little bit later to take you through our Magento integration and how to select a right ERP solution for your business, and what the things that you need to look for, and with some case studies on real-life customers, that what they do, what the pain points they see. So that should be very helpful for you all. So again, lifetime value through efficiency is typically an area that you're going to look at in ERP to help you. So any Peter Drucker fans here? Peter Drucker? I'm a big fan of Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker is the founder of Modern Business. He's written numerous publications, 39 publications. And one of the common themes across all his publications is around this notion of being a customer-centric organization, and that the customers are really the foundation of your business existence. And without it, none of us would be really here or employed. So everything that we do, we need to think about the customers at the base, and every action that we take has some form of an impact on customers. And the goal that a lot of us should have is think about customers in two ways. When you think about customers, you talk about what's the cost of customer acquisition. And a lot of marketeers and business investors put a lot of time in this. And a lot of us fall into this trap of thinking about how do we generate more leads and how do we get more business in our door. But we forget a little bit about our existing customers and what value they have. So there's this notion of lifetime value of the customer and getting a new customer. And if you really focus on one side, it becomes really unbalanced. So one of the key things that ERP brings to the table is to help you tap and balance this a lot more and increase the lifetime value of the business. Because at the end, if you just go after customer acquisitions, it's an uphill battle. And the successful businesses that are really strive long-term really learn how to do this really, really well. And we're going to touch on some of these elements throughout the presentation. So how do you calculate this notion of lifetime value? By the way, some people call this CLV, so you'll go into many sessions later on, and it's a pretty common theme in e-commerce and businesses in general. But calculating this lifetime value can be pretty complex. I mean, if you look at the formula, you'd be scratching your head and wondering, can I really make sense out of this? And there are plenty of sessions. You can go see Immersis tomorrow afternoon. They do a nice job of really taking you through the pieces of calculating this. So we won't get into that in this session, but we're going to talk about some of the elements that highly impact customer lifetime value. Retention rates is obviously very important. What is the attrition of your customers? Are your customers coming back to you, and how often? How did you discount to get a customer in? Are you discounting up front and with loss leaders and other types of things to capture customers, and what does that cost to you? At the end of the day, are you making money from these customers and their contribution to your business overall? And then retention costs. What are you doing in terms of handling customer service, providing them exceptions, making them feel special, those types of things. And then over what period of time are you really calculating this, right? So at its most simplest terms, you can think of CLV as your overall revenues divided by number of your customers. That's at its simplest term. Okay? So what we want to do is impact this CLV and at the end of the day, create fans of your brand. And if you can figure out how to create fans of your brand, you're going to be increasing that CLV overall. Because at the end of the day, all the studies have shown this, that retaining a customer and going after those businesses is much, much less costly. You're going to spend 7 times more trying to capture a customer versus getting the same business out of your existing customers. So really you have to focus on, what can you do to build your brand? And there's lots of stuff that people do. What are the key elements that drive this? So obviously personalization is one of them. Personalization is, if you shop at Amazon or you're looking for a product and you search for a product, those products are going to be always in your face. That's one of the things. Another one is maybe let's say you're in a printer toner business. And do you track how often does a customer need a toner, and what is the likelihood that their toner is out, and are you touching them at the right time? And maybe comparing that to a customer who's completely on a different product line, right? So getting back to them and personalizing your messages to them obviously is an important thing. The quality and of your service and the product itself has a lot of value, and you're going to take products and put your own spin to them and specialize them and try to differentiate yourself, so that gives you some form of personalization as well. Multi-channel customer service is important. Are they contacting you, and are you giving them the same level of service, whether they're shopping in one of your omni-channel ways versus if they call you, if you're providing that type of service? And the consistency of the service is very key. Social engagement obviously drives your brand, and at the end of the day, you are who you are with your brand, and if you can build that, that's great. So social engagement is obviously a big piece. Rewards programs, huge. How many of us flew here with our mileage plus that we care about? We're going to select the airline that matches what we want, and we're going to even pay more for those lines, even if we have to, because we really want those miles. So loyalty programs obviously are very, very key. Promotions and offers is key. Are you providing coupons? How many of us look for a coupon before we actually check out? That's become a common trend today, so offering coupons and being able to track them and their effectiveness is obviously key. Positive return experience. We love to shop at Costco because we know they're not going to ask questions when it's time to do any kind of exchanges or anything like that. So obviously that return experience is important. We'll talk a little bit about that more. Delivery times is key. Telling people when they're going to get their stuff and actually doing it, or even outdoing the expectations. So setting expectations up front, but beating it is obviously very important. And then there's a few other ones: fast delivery, order tracking. We love getting our text messages from Amazon when the product is on its way to our door, and we look forward to when it's being dropped off and so on. So those are nice things. And so just communication overall and getting engaged with your customer base drives a lot of value for lifetime. But where does the ERP fit in all this, right? So we want to think about, there's only so many of these things that we could do, and being able to do them efficiently and consistently is really the key, right? And ERP really helps us be efficient and be at our best when it comes to operational efficiency. So you have to achieve this operational efficiency across as many areas as you can. And when you look at your operations, there are a few areas that really are big in terms of what ERP can do for you. Sorry, this is not building out here. So we got inventory management, order fulfillment, returns. Sorry, I have to click here. Customer service, and we'll go into each of these. Order tracking, rewards and offers, and multi-channel approach. And multi-channel approach also is important because from visibility. So we'll talk a little bit about these. So let's talk about inventory management first. So, we have a lot of inventory, or we deal with potentially our vendors' inventory if you're doing just-in-time type of things. But being consistent in all your omni-channels, whether the person's calling in or not, and have information that's accurate, right? So, if you're publishing something online and it's not accurate and the shopper decides to purchase and then you can't fulfill what they need, or not have it in the right place so that you can deliver it at the right cost, and then have to go back and suffer from the profit losses because they're in the wrong places. So just getting your inventory and consistency in your inventory is important, and adhering to accounting principles for your inventory, tracking the accurate costs, whether it's in your ERP system or versus your shopping online. And as you grow and as you work with audit firms that are very large, they really care about this type of stuff, and compliance and GAAP standards become a key ingredient, and that's one of the areas that a lot of the e-commerce retailers have a lot of challenges as they grow and they become $30, $40, $50 million revenue businesses, and that's when they realize, oh my gosh, I need an ERP system because all my costs are out of whack, and my audit firms are upset with me, and so on and so forth. So getting consistency in your sales information that you go across all your channels and having the right information is key. And then, all this does impact your brand, and at the end of the day, it does impact your sales. So inventory management is very, very important. Order fulfillment has really 3 key components that are really critical. So order receipt window, the later you can have your closing of the day where you can accept orders that can ship that same day, the later you can do that, obviously, can increase your sales. Just increasing that by 1 hour shows that on average you'll be able to have 10% more in sales. So just focusing on what you can do to change your cutoff window can have a big impact. And then the way you can change that time is that you got to think about the second element, which is the order processing time. So they're kind of interrelated. If you can reduce your order processing time, you can extend your cutoff time. So ERP comes in very nicely in those areas because it really, really helps you be extremely efficient at order processing with automated systems and scanners and picking systems and so on, and consistently across all your channels. And then also, it has an impact on your transportation window, right? So if you can process an order faster, potentially you can even save on shipping costs, for example. So it can have an impact on your bottom line as well. So those 3 elements, each of them are important to think about, and how a right system can help you move those lines and shorten and shrink them to drive that lifetime value. And then, if it makes sense, thinking about 3PLs. If you don't touch your inventory, and it's not something that you need to inspect and do something with the inventory, integrating with a 3PL system or a vendor can dramatically reduce your order processing times. But when you do that, it becomes critical to integrate extremely well and not lose control of what you're doing. So that becomes a challenge in ERP systems, and the integrations that are available is a key point to selecting the right ERP systems, because 3PLs are becoming the norm of the future. Right? Reverse logistics. This is returns and exchanges. This is a big part, because if you don't have a good customer experience with returns, at the end of the day, it's going to be a challenge. That's directly impacts CLV. And it can get pretty complex when you talk about returns and reverse logistics. The amount of time that you spend processing those returns and all the different permutation and combinations of, is it being returned for credit? Is it being returned for an exchange? Is it something that you have to go back to your supplier with? Is it something that you're going to just count off as a loss and do a short sell on? So it can get pretty complex. And having a right system in place where it gives you right visibility, so you're not sitting on this bad inventory that tends to age over time and devalue, can have a big impact. So getting those out of the way is extremely critical. I mean, it's not unusual for us to walk into customers and see a big part of the warehouse is stocked full with bad equipment that's waiting to be processed. And that's just the recipe for disaster. So having a right system there is a huge opportunity to help CLVs. Customer service. This is becoming one of the most impactful areas in CLVs. How many of us are impatient nowadays, right? So the buyers are getting more and more impatient. They want everything their way. They've learned that customer's always right, and we have to find a way to service them better, right? So, and the statistics prove it. I mean, 89% of the shoppers, if they have a bad experience, they're just not going to buy from you anymore. And there goes your LTV right out the door. So it is worth it to invest in some of these people. I mean, they're not a lost cause. And studies have shown if you actually help a customer and do something in their favor, they're going to actually become a fan for you. And 70% of them are going to buy from you again. And not only that, they're going to refer you. Half of those people become a fan and refer somebody else. So don't ignore these customers, and you need to spend some time on evaluating your customer experience and how to optimize that. An ERP system and a good CRM system, which is typically part of an ERP solution, can really, this is an area that can help you shine. So that's a huge opportunity. And additionally, these types of systems can help you monitor and create right escalations at the right time. So it's very important to think about what are the right KPIs that you want to monitor around your customer experience. And at what thresholds do you want to inform and have somebody reach out to them and touch them and provide them some form of a contribution on their next sale or whatever that needs to happen. So customer service is a big area that ERP systems are important to think about and bringing it all together. And then finally, we talked about rewards, but really tracking these rewards and doing the right accounting principles around loyalty cards and gift cards can be pretty complex. And there are different rules between different states. Some states say, okay, you can keep these, you must keep these, you cannot expire the gift cards, they must last forever. Other states say, okay, after 4 years you can have an expiration, and so on. So just accounting for them on your financials and not being surprised in one fine day, oh my gosh, I've sold so many gift cards and they're not showing up anywhere on my books. Can be pretty big challenge. So you got to think through those before you sell too many of them and get yourself in trouble. And then having a single source of truth. Where's the real information that you can really rely on? If you go into your Magento site and you use some solution to get your sales figures, but the financial statements that you print and you give to somebody else has a different sales figure on it. Or worse, the profitability. You look at your inventory costs and how much your assets look like, but you really go count your inventory and it's completely different than what your financial statements say. Those are recipes for disaster. So having visibility over your business with information that you can count on is key, and that's what an ERP system does. So that's a huge opportunity. So at the end of the day, you have to really think through these and choose wisely, right? So choosing wisely means finding the right ERP system that talks to your omni-channel type sales, your Magento solution, your fulfillment solutions, if there is one. Does it have a CRM system? But most importantly, what does the Magento integration look like? Everybody says, okay, we have a Magento integration. You can use us, but that's a loosely used term, right? When you say integrated, we have an integrated system. And it's a very loosely used term. You have to really dig into the details and understand what are all the integration points, what are all those touch points. So to do that, I'm going to invite Rahul to join us, who's going to talk a lot about these integrations.
Thank you, Ali. All right. So Ali was explaining a lot about how to choose the right system, how to improve the operational value and so on. So I think the key here is choosing the right system, right? So when we are talking about choosing the right ERP system, we need to make sure that it actually interfaces with Magento. Obviously, we are all here because you're either already using Magento or you're considering using Magento. So you want a system that actually integrates well with Magento. So So the first one, obviously, is the obvious question: does it connect with Magento properly? There are a lot of systems that are out there. You have order fulfillment systems. You have other ERPs that are out there that integrate with Magento. And as Ali was indicating, it's the level of integration that's important, right? So what does that mean? The first thing is what is synchronized. Every time, as soon as you get an order in, it does not mean that just getting the order into your fulfillment system means that it's integrated. Back in the days, we used to do all these flat files where we used to take the files, we used to run batch jobs and import the files and so on. Is that truly integration? Yes, it's also an integration, but it's not a true integration. Does it also sync customer data? Is it two-way sync? In other words, if you pick up an order from customer service in your ERP system, does it actually get back into your Magento system? Because when we're talking about omni-channel experience and so on, you want to make sure that when an order is placed in, at the store, if the customer goes to, calls customer service and picks up an order from your CRM, does it get back into your Magento system? So when they log in, can they see it? Right? Does it actually take care of all the customer attributes, the products and categories, and so on? And most importantly, is it bidirectional? A lot of times, systems go from Magento to ERP or ERP to Magento, and that's it, right? And can you also pick and choose attributes? A lot of times, marketing team, this is always a clash between marketing and fulfillment and warehouse teams, right? So, who owns the product data? Right? So marketing always wants to say that, all the meta tags and everything else they would like to maintain. And the marketing teams are comfortable in Magento, especially if you have an SEO team that's updating your product descriptions and so on. They want to manage things in Magento as opposed to an ERP. So do you have the flexibility to maintain things in both the systems, depending on who is comfortable with what and so on, right? The third thing is, does it have an open API? This is one of the most important things because you're constantly connecting with various systems. One of the things that I'll go through is, a typical implementation that you have with an ERP and an e-commerce system will include, your warehouse systems, your order processing systems, your shipping stations, and everything else. So does the ERP that you're selecting, does it have an open API that actually is allowing you to integrate with these systems? And if you have a custom solution, does it allow you to integrate with that, right? The next one is, does it have customization and workflows? So in other words, does it allow you to modify the screens as needed? Does it allow you to add attributes as needed without actually engaging programmers all the time, right? Configurable workflows, simple things like, order statuses. How do you process your orders when you're dealing with, let's say, a manufacturing or an assembly, or even simple things like packaging, right? So does it allow you to configure those workflows based on your order statuses and so on, right? The next one is the system cloud-based. Magento introduced the cloud version today, and everybody is going to the cloud. When you're talking about integrating with various systems, you want to be on the cloud. It's your, you want to maintain your business data, access it anywhere. The fancy things about maintaining or running your business from a tablet device and so on. And more importantly, if it's cloud-based, every time you're dealing with an ERP and an e-commerce system, latency is the biggest thing, right? So when you're transferring data between two systems, how quickly are you transmitting the data, right? So obviously, the biggest culprit in delays is network latency. So can these systems be located close to each other? So in other words, if you are picking a cloud-based ERP, can it be located close to your AWS or Rackspace or Nexus instance and so on, right? The next one is the product types. This is one of the biggest things that we see. Most of the times when we talk to customers, ERP systems do not talk in Magento language, right? So you don't have configurable products, you don't have bundles and so on, and almost everybody uses those. And especially when it comes to virtual and downloadable, non-existent, right? So you want to make sure that you're picking an ERP solution that has all these product types available, right? The next one is the authorization and capture. More importantly, the payment types that you have in your ERP system, or the payment types that you have in your e-commerce system, can those be extended to the ERP? A lot of times, there's nothing worse than taking an order and not being able to fulfill it and having to do a refund, right? And actually making sure that you've already counted the money before you ship the product. So in an ideal world, you want to authorize on your e-commerce system and then do a capture on your ERP system, after you've fulfilled the order and so on. The next one is, taxes and shipping. A lot of times, most ERP systems recalculate taxes. They have payment engines, they have shipping engines that are actually recalculating all the values. How do you ensure that the same values that you've collected, or the same amount that you've collected from the customer, is getting into your ERP system, right? And scalability, the most important question. Obviously, can it scale with your business? Can it process thousands of orders quickly, or is the system going to only allow a certain threshold, right? So can you deploy it on the cloud and make sure that as your orders keep going up and down seasonally, can you also scale your ERP system accordingly, right? And most importantly, are the platform and company stable, right? So we've had cases where, we go through the whole thing, you set up the implementation, and then the next thing you know, the system is being modified, or there's no more support, and so on. And the last thing is, the reseller network and product support. This is one of the most important things. One of the reasons why we like Magento and why we're all here is because of the community that exists, where we can all, if you don't like your current service provider, you're here, you can talk to a lot of other service providers, right? So the ERP that you choose, is it a closed loop system that does not allow you to do that? Or can you actually pick a partner of your choice that works well with you, maybe that's closer to your geographical location and so on, right? So in a general process, we've talked about this, everybody's familiar with this, that has an online store. If you have a Magento website, you're going through the checkout process, you have your shipping rates, you get your tax automation through Avalara or other tools, and you go through your payment gateway, you authorize your card, you may have a fraud verification system that's actually going in and making sure that the system is, that the transaction is genuine and so on. Now, at this point, there are cases where you're thinking, okay, this can happen before or after. At what point do you want to push this order into your ERP? After you verify that the transaction is genuine, or you push everything in and then you want to handle your fraud verification later, right? So that's a decision that you may want to make. And there are different business reasons for either of those. So, our suggestion is that, once you verify the fraud, at that point you can push it into your fulfillment system. So once this order, the order is placed, the order is, the notification goes out to the customer, and at this point, you're now syncing the order from your Magento system into your ERP, right? So there are several things that are happening here. You're pushing your order information, which includes your customer data. You have your payment information. You have your shipping information that you're pushing in terms of what the customer has chosen. And a typical ERP should support a lot of different things, right? It should have a customer support module, a CRM, right? So where you can actually, the moment the order has come in, you need to know if the customer calls in, how do you handle that customer? A lot of times, customers may call in right after the order is placed and want to modify the order, right? You realize that that a lot of customers actually realize that after they go through the order confirmation page or the email that they placed the wrong order, the wrong dates, and so on. So in terms of, so you're getting the order into the distribution system, and at this point, it has to get into your finance, your accounts receivable and so on, and also, integration with CRM, whether it's an in-house CRM or, there could be a lot of times where customers are dealing with Salesforce, right? So if you're using Salesforce or other CRM systems that are out there, can it integrate well with any of those systems, right? And then you need to deal with warehouse as well. An ERP typically should allow an integration with a warehouse system, and you may also be using a third-party warehouse. It could be a fulfillment by Amazon, or you could be using a third-party warehouse which is actually processing all the orders from you, or even you may be doing a lot of shipments directly from the vendor, drop ships, right? So can the ERP handle that in communication with the drop ships, create the purchase order with the vendors, and so on, right? So once you have this data, you want to be able to generate the shipping labels, and at this time, you may also want to capture the credit card data and actually capture the transaction. And the notification has to go back to Magento. I'll obviously update your CRM and so on in terms of what products have been purchased, deal with your warranty and everything else. And most importantly, once everything is done, also make sure that your warehouse is replenished, the right products are actually being tracked, and so on, right? So this is typically a workflow. There could be a lot of complexities that come in. We've had a few customers that have had multiple warehouses, where you need to make sure that depending on the proximity of the customer, you are picking the right warehouse, right? We've talked about cases where you're dealing with multiple countries, multiple currencies, right? So how do you handle that in terms of getting that into your financial system and so on, right? So these are all things that have to be taken into consideration, and making sure that a typical order flow is actually processed properly, right? So I wanted to, can we switch to the computer, please? So we've talked a lot about all the different solutions and so on. We've integrated with various systems, including NetSuite and things like that. But we wanted to showcase today Acumatica and how it works. So as we talked about, there's a cloud-based ERP. So you'll see the dashboard where you can actually see a lot of information in terms of you can have your dashboard show your sales information, your shipping, your your tasks and your CRM information and so on. You also have the different modules. You have your finance, which is obviously your accounts payable, receivable, and so on. You have distribution, which is obviously the most important thing for us. We also have, within the organization, you have customer management and CRM that's built in. You again have an open API for the system and so on. What we talked about is with respect to managing stock items, right? So when you're dealing with stock items, you have to maintain a lot of different data with respect to a stock item, whether it's relating to your tax categories and so on, what warehouses you're going to stock this item in, and you can have more than one warehouse. You can define your price, you can define your current price, as well as you want to set a price from a particular date. You have your warehouses. You can have multiple warehouses, the multiple warehouses stocking the same item, and then the warehouse picked based on the proximity that we talked about. Again, the e-commerce tab, that's important, where a lot of times you want to have the ability to maintain your product data inside your ERP system, but you're not ready to sell it online yet, right? So you want to make sure that there is separation between active products in your ERP versus active products on your e-commerce system. So for example, I want to launch a product a month from today. So I still want to define all my vendors, stock everything, and make sure that I'm defining all the parameters for that product, but I still don't want it on my website yet, right? And for those that already have Magento stores, the visibility is something that's pretty familiar, right? So you can control the visibility from your ERP instance. You can also define your meta tags, your upsells and cross-sells, and so on. Again, as I was indicating, everything in here you can choose, you can pick and choose and say, I can either maintain everything on my ERP as your single system of truth, or you can actually say that my e-commerce data, I would like to manage that on the Magento side, right? So you want to have that flexibility. Obviously, you can define your vendors. You can definitely have more than one vendor for the same product. All of your attributes, the images, all these images would actually be synced up and pushed to the website. If you have a CDN, you can set it up. You can define your notes, records, everything else. Packaging information, cross-reference, if you have different vendor part numbers and so on, right? And obviously, replenishment information, that's very important. When do you start bringing in more parts to into your system and so on, right? You can also define description. If, for example, the default description could be the short description, but you can also have a pretty large description that talks about different aspects of the product and so on, something that's important from SEO. And the other aspect, which again, we talked about product types, right? So this is most of your simple stock items. Let's say if you're selling a T-shirt or something like that, you want to make sure that every single variant of the T-shirt, the sizes, the colors, and everything else is defined as its own product. But that's not typically how you merchandise the product, right? So you sell a T-shirt and then you define it as a configurable product where you're actually going in and allowing the customer to select a color, size, and other variants and so on. So this is basically where you have all the different composite items. You can basically create a configurable item, which is kind of a virtual item, just like you have it in the Magento space. And you can define your attributes that are going to be controlling the configurable product. And then you can map the simple products that actually relate to it. So when the sales order comes in, you can actually see that somebody has placed a T-shirt or somebody placed an order for a T-shirt, and it is of size large, men's, and black color, and so on. So that level of functionality should carry on all the way from your product definition to your sales order, and so on. What's more important is when you actually have bundle items. When you're dealing with a bundle product, you have different items. Just like in Magento, you can define your, what you want to call the attribute. You can define the values and so on. And as these things come in, you want to see them as what's selected by the customer. So when the sales order comes in, you should be able to see that here's the order that has been placed, and here are all the options that have been chosen, right? It's not truly an assembly or a manufacturing. It's just choosing of options on a particular product, right? And manufacturing is an entirely different ballgame, and the ERP should support that as well, where if you're actually going in and picking up items where it's a made-to-order kind of a product, you should still be able to support that, right? And the attributes, again, you can define your attributes here as well for the bundle product. Okay? And in terms of the sales order, you should be able to see the customer data. All the customer information is available right there. The order that comes in, the tax details, any commissions that are defined on that particular sales order, your financials, payment settings, the shipping settings and all that. So you should be able to capture, what the customer paid versus what's your actual cost of shipping the product, right? It could be higher or lower, hopefully lower most of the times, right? And you can also start tracking discounts, right? So when you have a cart level discount, which is typically present on in most e-commerce sites, you want to capture those discount details here, where you can actually have the discount codes, the discount amounts, and so on. And when you have an item level discount, you want to be able to capture that information right here in your discount codes and the percentages and so on. So this allows you to basically have, irrespective of whether the order is coming in through Magento, it's coming in through your CRM, anywhere else, you're showing the exact same discounts, you're running your reports against the same thing, you should be able to report back to your CFO exactly what discounts have been used and how much has been spent and what orders came in through that and so on. Okay? I'll briefly spend a few minutes on how the integration looks like. Unlike a lot of solutions that are out there, this is actually a Magento extension. The integration sits inside of Magento, and this is the new Magento 2 interface, right? So we are 2.0 ready, and what it does is you can go in and define the direction of your sync at every entity. So let's say if I take order sync, I can go in and say whether I want the direction to be Acumatica to Magento or Magento to Acumatica and bidirectional and so on, right? So you can do the same thing at customers. You can do the same thing with respect to product data and so on. And what's more important is that we've talked about open API and being able to add custom attributes and so on, right? So every customer is different. Everybody's attributes are different. So the system also allows you to basically go in and say that if I'm dealing with a customer, I can go in and look at all the attributes that exist for a customer, and I can say what's the Acumatica attribute and can I map to it. Obviously this looks very complicated. There are default settings that are already out there, but you can actually change that, and if you want to create your own custom attribute and you want to sync to that, you can definitely do that as well, right? So back in the Palm Pilot days, if it's bidirectional, which system wins? Let's say if data has been modified in both the systems, you can say that the last update wins, or you can have one system take priority over the other and so on. Okay. So in terms of these things, sorry, one more thing that I wanted to cover is with respect to order statuses. These are something that's very simple. For example, you have a lot of different order statuses that can exist in your ERP system. And in your ERP site, let's say, for example, you're doing manufacturing, assembly, and pick, pack, and ship, and all that stuff. You may not want to show every single aspect of that to your customer, right? So on your front-end website, you may just say that order is being processed, it's being shipped, and so on, or it's already shipped. So you can actually go in and define your custom shipping types or order statuses inside Magento, and make sure that you're mapping it to the appropriate order or order status inside Acumatica. And the system automatically maps them based on the setting. And the tracking numbers and everything gets synced as well. And the same thing happens with payment methods. For example, you may be dealing with a payment method on your e-commerce site that may not exist on your ERP, and you're doing your capture inside your e-commerce. You can just go in and book it to a cash account inside your ERP. So you can actually go in and do your mapping for payment methods. You can do the mapping for shipments and so on, right? So some of our complex implementations, in fact, one of our partners is sitting right here and the customer is right here. I think we are, Thomas, if you can raise your hand. Yeah, thank you. So I think we have, I think for one of our customers here, Shubhak, I think we've had, probably we pushed through 2,000 plus orders, or I think on a good day around 3,000 orders in a day, without any issues with the system. And that's, I mean, it truly depends on how fast your Magento system can push orders into your ERP, right, and be able to process them and so on. Another aspect that Ali covered is with respect to making sure that you have the right products that are listed. There was a good example that, and I'm going to steal this from Thomas because he did explain that to somebody else yesterday. Having your products sitting in your warehouse and not being listed on your website, just by enabling things the right way, I think they're able to see, I believe, on a single day from Amazon orders jump up from almost like $12,000 to $70,000 a day. Right? So that's just making sure that the right products are listed on your website for the right pricing and so on. Right? So there are a lot of different things that can be done. Right? So as I said, we want to choose things wisely and pick the right ERP solution that supports everything.
Thank you very much.
Right? Thank you.